And now, the Rusty Stubblefield for President show, featuring world-renowned raconteur, grief counselor, and unemployed auto mechanic, the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield, sharing his unhinged views about politics and religion as the United States of America looks forward to the celebration of its 250th anniversary as one great nation under God, under the leadership of our snake oil salesman-in-chief, President Donald J. Trump.
I'd like to thank y'all for listening to my show. I'd like to thank y'all for listening to my show. We's all got a point of view. I like sharing mine with you. Thank y'all for listening to my show. Rusty Stubblefield for president.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the Rusty Stubblefield for President show. This here is my special interfaith edition. Before I get started, I need to be completely transparent with y'all and remind you that I ain't running for no office. That was just some fake news being spread by the local media down here in Hogs Head Holler, Kentucky, to drum up some business. The only thing I's running is running away from them there debt collectors who's trying to get me to make my alimony payments. Good luck with that shit. Catch me if you can. Now, if you recall in my sermon last week, much to my chagrin, I discussed Jesus' name appearing in them there Epstein files. And in that there context, I discussed the fact that if Jesus, praise the Lord, if Jesus is the most powerful and most popular Jew of all time, why ain't them there Jewish folks celebrating his birthday on the day he was immaculately conceptualized? You know, otherwise known as Christmas. After thinking about how to answer that there question, I figured out that maybe I should ask a Jew himself why his fellow Jewish kinfolk don't take none to celebrating Christmas like them there Christians do. You know, like how these Christians spend all they's money at the local Walmart on gifts for people. You know, they stupid kind of gifts that folks neither want nor does need. There's just too much spending going on during Christmas time and not enough praying to Jesus for salvation. I wished we'd get religion back into the equation instead of so much uncontrolled and irrational spending people can't afford. There it is. The word afford, like in affordability. You know that Democrat hoax word that there Trump feller keeps on a-mocking? I done know a guy who spent $500 just on Christmas lights alone. He wound up electrocuting himself while he was putting them there lights up. He's dead now. But at least his insurance policy paid his wife enough money to buy some liquor for this year's holiday festivities. That feller, his name was Mullethead Martelloni. He's an Italian feller. You know, one of them devout Roman Catholics. The only Roman he did was chasing around looking for local hookers. Well, anywho, old Mullethead, he's lucky he died before January 1st. Otherwise, without his government-subsidized Obamacare, he couldn't have afforded the health care insurance that covered him in the hospital while he was a-dying. May he rest in pieces. Now, down here in Hogs Head Holler, Kentucky, whilst we do have one of them there synagogues, there's ain't too many Jews around to consult with. In point of fact, I think that at that there synagogue, they's only got a congregation of one. They's named that there synagogue the International House of Hebrews to sort of sound like that there IHOP, you know, the International House of Pancakes. Ain't that name, the International House of Hebrews, got a nice ring to it? Not like the name of my church, the Church of Our Lady of Original Sin. Well, anywho, when Old Man Johnson, John Jeremiah Johnson be his full name, when Old Man Johnson done passed, he put in his last will and testament that he wanted to donate his old barn to the Jewish folk in town so they could use it for a place of worship, just like in the same way us Christians in the holler has our own church. Now, Because we's got only one Jew in town, and his name is Mr. Rabinowitz, Mr. Reuben Rabinowitz. How's that for a Jew-sounding name? It sticks out like a sore thumb in this neck of the woods. Well, anywho, Reuben Rabinowitz took one of them correspondence courses to get his certificate as a rabbi. You know, a Jew priest. And he done retrofitted that there old barn into what I's already told you is called the International House of Hebrews. And now Mr. Rabinowitz goes by the title of the Redneck Rabbi Reuben Rabinowitz. We just call him the Redneck Rabbi for short. So last week I phoned up the Redneck Rabbi on the telephone to ask him if he'd come to the Conflation Station studio for an interview so I could ask him why his people, you know them there Jews, don't celebrate Christmas or Easter neither. When we's got to talking on the telly, the Redneck Rabbi told me that his 1971 Toyota Tacoma wasn't a-running, so he got no way of getting to the Conflation Station, which is located in Frankfort, Kentucky, about 15 minutes as the crow flies from his shack in the holler. As he put it, and I quote, "It was quite a schlep." That's the word them there Jews use to describe when traveling somewhere becomes a real hassle. So we's agreed to just talk on the telly, and I would ask him some questions in like a mock interview format. We could have done some FaceTiming, but we just can't stand to look at each other. I guess that's still better than being in the same room together with him, having to smell each other. Remembers, we live in Hog's Head Holler. Well, before I start boring the ever-loving matzo ball soup out of y'all, this here is a good time for a musical interlude. Today, I'll be a-singing something for y'all written by the world-renowned composer fella E. Dude X. This week's piece is a silly little country ditty that he's asked me to vocalize that's got a much deeper underlying meaning at both the spiritual and subatomic levels. When I first heard it, that level of sophistication was somewhat lost on me. It's entitled, "It Is What It Is." I hopes me and the fellers in the Electric Love Orchestra can do justice to this piece. Enjoy, and I'll be right back with the rest of my sermon.
It is what it is. It ain't what it was. If it is what it is and it ain't what it was, then it is what it is. Thank the Lord above. Be sure it is what it is. Make no mistake about it. It is what it is. Yes, it is. It ain't what it's not. Are you sure? If it is what it is and it ain't what it's not, then it is what it is. Thank the Lord our God. Be sure it is what it is. Hallelujah.
Golly, wasn't that fun to listen to? Makes me want to get up and dance. That E. Dude X feller sure is one heck of a versatile composer. Now, getting back to my sermon, anywho, when the Redneck Rabbi and me started the conversation, he greeted me by saying, and I quote, "Shalom." It be my understanding that in that there Jewish lingo, the word shalom has multiple meanings. It means hello, it means goodbye, and it also means peace. So I wasn't quite sure how to take what he said to me. If he was starting the conversation by saying goodbye to me, then there wasn't much sense of having any conversation whatsoever. Well, after we got that done figured out, he reiterated to me, and I quote, that he didn't want to sound like he was kvetching, but the schlep to the studio was a bit too much for him. End quote. Now, we've already covered the meaning of that there word schlep, but for you guys and gals who's unfamiliar with Jew talk, the word kvetching means complaining. When I finally got to ask him why the Jews don't celebrate no Christmas and Easter, even though Jesus was a Jew, his response was, and I quote, "Oy vey," which in Jew talk is an exclamation of frustration, like he was meaning to say in the King's English, "Why the heck are you asking me this here question?" So I asked him again, to which he replied, and I quote, "Oi gewalt." Now, I ain't no expert in that Jew talk, but it sounded like he was getting even more frustrated with me. Now, since we's both clergymen, I thought we's gonna have a stimulating conversation about religion, but by now, even I was getting a bit frustrated and wanted to belt out a loud oy vey myself. I even contemplated changing the subject to Jew politics, asking him about where he stood on a two-state solution to solving the Palestinian problemo, or maybe even discussing that there anti-Semitic commie that was just elected mayor of New York City. His name is Zoran Mamdani. Sure sounds like an Arab commie name to me, but for fear of alienating the redneck rabbi even more, I refrained from that there line of questioning and tried one more time to ask him why his fellow Jew folk don't celebrate no Christmas. He answered, and I quote, "You're making me plots." Now, if the word plots sounds like I think it means, I knew that this here interview had shit the goddamn bed. So at that point in the conversation, it was a right opportune time to move on and bid the redneck rabbi farewell. Hey, pardon me, y'all, but I think now's a right appropriate time for me to take yet another brief pause from this here sermon so I can sing another special song by E. Dude X entitled "That's What They Say." As indicated in its title, this song's about the dumb kind of shit people say to each other every day. Enjoy the Electric Love Orchestra a-strumming up a storm, and I'll be right back to conclude my sermon.
They say that I don't really care. That's what they say. They say that God is everywhere. That's what they say. They say it's neither here nor there. That's what they say. They say that love is in the air. That's what they say. That's what they say. That's what they say. That's what they say.
Anywho, now getting back to my sermon, before me and the redneck rabbi got off the phone, he invited me to come down to visit him at his synagogue to do what he called some schmoozing. Apparently, that's Jew talk for chewing the fat. He also called it kibitzin. These words schmoozin and kibitzin must be monogamous in that they're Jew talk. He also invited me to partake in some old school prayer, from that there Old Testament out of that there Jew Bible called the Torah. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, them there Jew folk read from right to left. Maybe that's why regular white folks like you and me is so damn confused about what these Jewish folks is saying. The redneck rabbi also said he would treat me to a bagel with cream cheese. Around here, the cream cheese is made from goat's milk. I said I'd take him up on the offer sometime in the near future. In my experience as a reverend, I think it's always good to have someone to pray along with. When God hears a two voices speaking in unison, it gives him more mind to pay attention. While we was about to hang up, I got to thinking that, regardless of a person's religious beliefs, people of all different religious persuasions should be celebrating at least one holiday together each year. It don't need to be about Jesus or even God for that matter. If and we was like that President Trump feller, we can all just sit down and pray to a golden toilet bowl like he does. Anywho, it can just be a day to rejoice in our shared humanity. As a reverend, I, for one, would like to see more people of different faiths getting together to pray. Christians, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, come one, come all. The more the merrier. Heck, I would even invite some damn atheists to that there prayer party. I'd love to see how them there atheists pray. I would imagine they's pray much like the way them there evangelicals pray. Don't you? Maybe we could have some poisonous snakes at the prayer party too. Anywho, last thing the redneck rabbi said to me was that there shalom word again. Wasn't sure if he was just plain mixed up saying hello again or whether he meant goodbye. I said shalom also, to which he said Ze gesund. Now, I didn't sneeze or nothing, so I just thanked him and used my hanky to wipe my nose anywho. Come to find out, them words Ze gesund was also another crazy Jew saying for parting ways. Well, as I say at the end of each of my weekly sermons, if you and me put our pretty little heads together, we may still be able to figure out how to get religion and politics in this here crazy world back on track. Thank y'all for listening.
I'd like to thank y'all for listening to my show. I'd like to thank y'all for listening to my show. We's all got a point of view. I like sharing mine with you. Thank y'all for listening to my show.